Good morning, everybody. This is our March edition of the Magic and Wisdom of Essential Oils. Joseph Carter and I here to entertain you and educate you for the next hour. And it looks like Shari's here too. And Laurel. Is that Laurel?
Edutainment. Yeah. And you had something new that you just shared with me.
Oh,
What is that?
yes. I have Peter Holmes' new book,
Yeah,
Channeling Fragrance. Did
yeah.
you order that, Shari?
It's on my list. I just saw some extra money in my account, so that's the next book I'm gonna buy.
Sean.
Great, great. Yes, we're gonna read a little bit from this today about blue yarrow, and that's one of the oils that we're going to be working with. We have a couple of substitutes, though, don't we, Joseph?
Well,
We
you could
play
always
with?
use another blue. We could use the blue
Yes,
tansy.
yes.
Let's
Yes.
see, the German chamomile.
Mhm.
Um, and it's in the sunflower Asteraceae family. So I could even go Roman chamomile, but I would lose the blues. Um, let's see. That's a pretty good selection there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. So, our theme this month is, of course, spring. I have my little spring butterflies and ladybugs and bees on today. Um, and creating a state of flow. And I had a little bit of information on that in my blog post and social post I did yesterday and a newsletter I sent out. But I also wanted to kind of tap into something we brought into the learning circle as well on Tuesday was um, this sort of overreaching fear of the unknown and how it keeps us out of that state of flow. And I think right now we're in a pretty deep state of the unknown.
Uncertainty, at least. Yes.
Yes, yes. And that could be anywhere in your life. Could be body, mind, and spirit.
Mhm.
So, in Chinese medicine, we don't separate those things. We are one big individual organism. And so we try and integrate all of that into
Hmm.
our being.
I,
So,
I'm going to just throw this one out there. So, with uncertainty comes disorientation. Okay. I don't know where north, south, east, and west are. I get disoriented, right? The human sense of direction is intimately related to the human sense of smell. The ethmoid sinus, which has the nasal nerve hanging down in it, has inclusions of magnetite. Sorry, you'll like this one. Okay. So it has mineral magnetite, which is the way, I mean, we got it from the birds. Things things went to the birds a long time ago. All right. And we evolved that system forward, or we get the benefit of that evolution forward. And we don't know that we have a magnetic system, but we do have a smell system, which is three-dimensional, and it helps us orient and reorient when we get disoriented. So I think it's an interesting. It's more than a coincidence that I mean, spring and the lushness of growth and new life going on can be very disorienting because there's such a surge to the growth, right? So we're gonna go back to our oldest sense and its magnetic abilities to get reoriented.
so can I do a breathing exercise we did in yoga the other day? This
No,
all
no, you
ties
can't. Yes, of course.
in. Okay. So, in yoga class the other day, it's a restorative yoga class, and Terry is amazing. Terry, if you watch this replay, just know that I love you.
Oh,
Um, you're just sitting. Let's find like a comfortable position here. And when we take an in breath, we're going to lift our nose as if we're sniffing the air, sniffing that springtime essence. And then you hold it, and then you tuck your chin. And when you let that breath out, you relax your whole body. And let's do that 3 times. So we're going to take an in breath, tipping our nose up to sniff the air. Hold that breath, tuck your chin, and then as you exhale, relax it all. All right, 2 more times. Tuck And release. One more time. Sniff, hold, tuck, release. And I just think that that gets us back to the magnetic pulse of the earth and that harmonization with our bodies and the earth.
Can we add some of this into that and do that breathing again?
Yes. Have you got your blue yarrow?
Yes, indeed.
All right. If you don't have blue yarrow, you could have blue tansy. I'm just going to put a drop in my.
If you don't have blue tansy, you could have German chamomile. And if you don't have German chamomile, just imagine you do and put it in.
All right. Let me give it a nice rub. There's a sweet green pungent that comes with blue yarrow. And so we can feel that lift in the pungency. And then that sweet green on the exhale lets you feel supported and safe and secure. We have a point to put with this today, don't we?
You got to put your best foot forward for this one.
Which point are you thinking about?
Was it liver 3?
You could do liver 3.
Okay. Wow.
Or you could do triple heater, triple warmer, 17.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the Frankenstein point, right? This is the one where the bolts are, right?
Yes.
If you have an ear and then an earring, if the earring just kept going, the post in the back kept going, it would go into triple warmer 17.
It's that deep valley between the mandibular bone and that prominent bone on the skull. Yeah. So I'm going to put a little bit there.
Right.
What this point is really good at is dealing with the fear of the unknown.
What, again, we're getting into another bat sense, if you will, right? Hearing and the three-dimensionality of hearing. So the reorientation via hearing. And again, if you imagine a dog, and sure, you're going to relate to this one because you've got one right there with you, okay? They're going to go into a room and look, but they're also going to do that sniff test, right? They're going to
Sniff.
right? And that's how they get oriented, you know? And then even when they start losing their sense of sight, you probably had some experience with this and the dogs too. They're using what they can tell of light and shadow along with the smell to reorient.
So this is going to just sort of not only just reorient you, but give you through the energetic frequency this sense of safety and security. I got you.
Nice.
So I'm going to throw something out and ask.
Yeah.
I have vertigo really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Help? No help.
Triple warmer 17 would be an excellent point. I would use it in a recipe for you. All right. Mm-hmm. It's a point that when you press it deeply and then bring it down behind the jawbone, all right, you help open up the eustachian tube, which helps inflammation clear out of the inner ear, which is where the semicircular canals, our sense of balance, okay, and often implicated in vertigo. There's something going on in the inner ear, right? One other one, Angela, you probably got some ideas on this. You're also very near the vagus nerve there, or at least the tracing that we can get on the surface. All right, so it's down that line, right? And that has a lot to do with, well, everything, but with the gut brain and how we respond in a situation, fight and flight, okay? And possibly also the disorientation one might have with vertigo. Am I making sense there?
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, it's no fun.
I
Oh,
also think of accumulation of stagnation, and I think of spleen points too, like to help boost immune system. I think keeping lymphatic moving, all those kinds of things. If spleen 6 is tender, I'm like, oh, okay, because I go through this. I get a lot of stagnation up in here. My ears are plugged up all the time in the winter, and that's just what I've noticed in the pattern of my body in this climate in the Pacific Northwest in the winter. So I
mhm.
do a lot of extra work in this channel here. Yeah.
And pairing it with spleen 6, so you get something systemic for the lymph,
Yeah.
okay, and the
Yeah.
clarifying of the lymph
Hmm.
and the local in this area. Um, what also think if you add something camphoraceous,
Yeah.
a eucalyptus, something that's going to open up the sinuses. If not a eucalyptus, a rosemary would work here too. All right. Because that will help kind of cut through or cleave the phlegm that might be in the inner ear, that might be part of the congestion in the lymphatics. Um, that I will give those two a try. Okay.
Okay.
Triple Wilmer 17, spleen 6, something camphoraceous. Um, this, in a way, is going to be, what were Peter's words for this? The smell?
Oh,
Remember,
it was sweet, green, pungent.
pungent.
Yeah, that anything you're using that's pungent is going to lift, that energy.
Pungent and camphoraceous are the same basic area of scent. Okay. There's an idea that 80% of the nasal nerve is smelling everything but pungent. And then further on in the tract is where you actually get the pungency. I don't quote me on that yet because I'm not remembering it clearly. But if you can get the smell in, it doesn't matter if you remember it clearly because it helps clear the mind, helps clear the phlegm. So
Shari, how is your sense of smell? Do you have a good sense of smell?
I do, in fact, I drive Wayne crazy. I'm like, not only sound sensitive, but smell. I'm like, what is that smell? I smell it. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? And, I'm like, I can tell when the gas unit that we have, that's a HVAC dual, gas, and I'm like, something doesn't smell right. And,
right.
yeah, I'm very keen on smell for sure. And sometimes even the essential oils are too much for me. I mean, even diluted down, I kind of like Jonathan's almost zero smell for me because I just came from another class that, I was using spruce at 50% and I'm still drunk on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And this is 50%. So
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very sensitive.
And that usually when I work with clients that have that hypersensitivity of hearing or smell or even taste,
Hmm.
the work that we've done has always led back to the nervous system because there's a hypervigilance there,
Right.
that orienting and like always wanting, okay, where do I need to find the safe places and those
Right.
kinds of things. And it always has come back to doing some really deeper vagus nerve work.
Yeah. Well, and the breathing that we did to start with, that
Yeah,
is going to be calming to the vagus nerve.
very much so. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I hope that helps.
It does. Like I said, I drive Wayne crazy because he's like, I don't smell it.
I know. Same thing with my husband because he has hyposmia, which is the absence of,
Smell.
isn't that what it is? Hyposmia.
Anosmia.
Yeah. The absence of a sense of smell. So, but then he'll smell weird things like, do you smell that motor oil with fresh baked bread? I'm like, no, that would be a horrible combination. And he gets stuck in his head for,
Right.
12, 14, 16 hours. So, yeah, yeah. All right, you were talking about liver three. That is a way to move energy to come into spring. I love it. Liver three, because spring is the wood element, so we're in liver gallbladder territory by the end of this month.
Yeah.
So,
The um, the motion, okay. With the wood element, the emotion is anger, and it has a decidedly upward push to it. And the energies of spring have that, they pop, they lift. Um, with the heating of the sun, the water in the ground sometimes makes the ground surge up. Actually, you can look out and the land's lifting around the roots of trees. Okay. Um, so we, we're in the environment. And we feel that. And it's like, and especially if we've got a disorientation and then we're in this, there's a lot of energy in the system. We don't know where we are. What do I do? Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Okay. So being able to take a moment, take a breath, maybe get I'm going to use it this word, a friendly scent can help us get into the flow of that energy or find our flow within that surging. I think there's a lot of little tricks. Angela, a while back you mentioned a whole deck on the vagus nerve. There's a card deck with all sorts of different little things you can do for the vagus nerve.
oh yes, yes.
Like,
Yeah. Let me go grab that.
it's a biohack. It's something to do when I'm nervous, when I'm disoriented. What can
Yeah.
I do? I can take a breath. Right?
It's yeah, it's Melissa Romano, Vagus Nerve Deck. There's 75 exercises in here to reset your nervous system.
Yeah.
And I love it. It was a really helpful, and it's got different categories in here. So there's three different colors of cards. So depending on what you needed.
Hmm.
There you go. Good job.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and oh yeah, I've used those cards quite a few times, just with myself and with clients as well, and in some group work that I've been doing.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, with what we started with, okay, these are uncertain times at least, okay. There is a lot of disruption, is a mild word, I think, for it, and there's a lot of the old norms are not holding, okay, and we don't know what a new normal might be. Spring has that, the rites of spring, Stravinsky, there's this craziness that can happen in spring, okay, and we love it and we hate it, right? And a lot of it is, how can I personally modulate my response so I can get to something like the flow state or a flow state where I feel like I'm gonna be okay, things are going all right. Now, I don't want to misperceive the environment. When the environment's dangerous, we should perceive that, right? And we
right.
still need to find a way to flow through that,
Hmm.
right? So literally coming to your senses, okay? Um, the breathing, the hearing, sight. We've mentioned these three senses. There is, again, I used camphoraceous, that word earlier, the pungent, okay? It kind of jolts your senses. It kind of clears them. Um,
Yes.
the breathing for me is definitely, it's going to basically calm the sensing being so that I can make sense of my senses, not that it's all just coming in at once. Um, again, I think some of the cultural disorientation that we have is everything is happening all at once at the same time, and it's not a movie anymore. Okay.
And it feels very chaotic. And if I can just put it, if we can shift from, if we can use plant medicine and points to shift from chaos to resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
Resiliency means that I'm in the flow, right? There were some components of that. So if we put resiliency in the middle as our target where we want to be,
Right.
one of those first components is learning. is being in community like this and learning oils and points to be able to do.
Sure.
Then that second part is adaptability, because the plants are adapting in springtime. Ooh, they're adapting, they're growing, they're changing, they're coming back up.
Mm-hmm.
And then that leads to flexibility. And those three components, learning, adaptability, and flexibility, create resilience.
And they're a laugh, LAF, learning,
Yeah.
adaptability, and
Learning.
flexibility.
Yes, adaptability.
Yeah.
Yes, and a sense of humor is really important in there. Uh,
Yeah.
it's and when I smell blue yarrow, I feel that sweet green, so it lets me know that things are they're in a flow, and then that pungency
Mm-hmm.
gives me that lift to sort of be resilient. I always think of that one about laurel, about how laurel brings us up to give us that 20,000-foot view,
Mm-hmm.
on yin tone, or even do 20. But yeah, and you even at the end of a smell of blue yarrow, I find myself doing that lift and sniffing the air like, oh yeah, this is spring, this is in the flow.
Mm. The I mentioned you showed us, both of you showed us the deck. Okay, so there's these little, sometimes they're called biohacks. Okay, um, and then moving from biohack into something that is medicinal. Okay, and medicinal without tasting or smelling like medicine. Okay, in that kind of like, oh, I don't. That's like it's so medicinal. Yeah. And one of the other oils for today, marjoram.
Oh, yes.
Right, there is something in it that maybe it's just my association, but it's kind of an appetizer. It smells good. There is a sweetness to it. Um, the yarrow doesn't. I mean, I get the astringency. Um, if you ever chew a yarrow leaf, okay, your mouth dries up. Okay, that's one of the reasons yarrow is really good for wound healing, for stopping bleeding. Um, and the marjoram, what are the the Romans and the Greeks? The translation is joy of the mountains. Okay, so, and maybe I'm joyful because that plant, seeing it while I'm hiking through the mountains, oh, I know where I am now. I know that that's safe. I know that that's useful. It's even beautiful. The What I'm getting at is, let's play with the lore of these, okay? The mythology of these. Again, I fully believe we should be under the influence, not necessarily drunk, sorry, okay? Um, so it might need to be that with the spruce next time you do a 25% dilution.
No, I'm just going to dip a toothpick in and then put it in a carrier oil.
Yeah,
Seriously.
exactly.
So you learn from experience, you're adapting, okay, and that shows your flexibility,
Mhm.
okay?
We
Um,
have a good point for sweet marjoram today, right?
mhm.
A good, yes. Let's show that one.
So in between the two tendons that are going to the base of the palm, right in the middle, right there at that major crease, pericardium 7, okay? Great mound, great burial mound, or daling is how you say it in Chinese. So in acupuncture school, went daling. That's the point. Daling. You want to know what I mean?
Darling.
I called it the Zsa Zsa Gabor point, so I've dated myself. Okay. Um, and this one is the balancing or source point for the pericardium. Pericardium is the heart protector. Okay. The heart is also the mind in Chinese medicine in a big sense. All right. So it's a very useful point for kind of, oh, be still my beating heart. Okay. It, it's probably getting the vagus nerve too somehow. Okay. I can't prove it, but what I'm going to do to play with that point is take the marjoram, go ahead and just do adapt there.
It just puts me in a sway, like,
Yeah.
and
And the
in your hand.
flower like quality of marjoram for me is kind of perfumery in a way. There is something about that. this is a classic perfume point.
And I'm holding this isn't like a mudra. You're holding your hands and
Yeah,
you're
you can do
receiving
that.
the universe. Yeah, you can do this too. But this is a real receiving gesture to the universe, and think and feel like that's channeling straight to your heart space. Like you're getting everything you need right now from the universe.
Mm, the joy of the moment.
Hmm. With from the joy of the mountain, sweet marjoram.
This is a little vignette. Um, I dance every Sunday with a group. Five Rhythms is the name of it. Okay, Sacramento Five Rhythms. And it's about 5 weeks ago. Everybody was really distressed about the politics of the world. Okay, and this one woman who helps run a teachers union here in California, she said one thing we have to do is we have to bring joy to whatever we have to do as far as protest or as far as showing our dissatisfaction, but do it in a joyful way. Okay. And that just like, oh, good. Um, it is happening. Things are happening. I don't like. That's depressing. That's a downer, quote unquote. And it tends to keep people from acting. Tends to keep me from acting. Right. But if I can dance with it, if I can bring some joy to the moment, okay, then maybe it actually goes from being a frightening experience and starts moving towards being a learning experience. Okay. Again, then we start that, virtuous cycle, learning, adaptability, flexibility. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, we had our drum circle last night,
mhm,
and we invited the um, Sisters of Mother Earth to come, and they are three women who represent lineage from native tribes from Alaska to I don't Northern California, and they came and started our drum circle with us in singing powwow songs and ended it with us, and then they drummed with us. And I had met them up at our Pacific Unity Unitarian Fellowship,
mhm,
and we're sitting in this beautiful sanctuary, the Presbyterian Church, which is a historic building in Astoria. And the organ pipes are against the back wall and the beautiful woodwork, and they drum at the beginning of this, and they give honor to the Chinook people whose land we are on right now, who
mhm,
have never been recognized by our government, who
mhm,
saved Lewis and Clark's life when they were here on their expedition and still never recognized.
yeah,
And to be in the spirit of that in a church sanctuary, there was this real upwelling of we're just really one people on one planet, still relying on plant medicine as our medicine. And it gave me hope, it gave me joy,
mhm,
and it kept me in the flow because there's so many things to get us out of the flow right now and let chaos take hold.
mhm,
So I think now more than ever, it's important to do pericardium 7. It's important to do triple warmer 17. It's important to do liver 3. Um, all the things that keep us in the flow and experiencing joy and experiencing gratitude
mhm.
and dancing. I
Yeah,
love it.
and drumming. The one of the statements I have with my patients and getting them to do some exercise is motion is lotion. Okay. And for body, mind, spirit, and emotion. Right. And we have such a tendency. I mean, when I get angry, I get righteously angry. Okay. And it tends to get me in this kind of stuck place, even though I have a lot of energy. And then it's almost as if that energy stagnates, becomes destructive, becomes um, contrary to what I would like. It no longer feels good. It feels right. So actually being able to put that in motion and being able to scent or inspire, I'm not sure what the right word is, that motion with a plant medicinal.
Yeah, let's do liver 3. Let's get rid of that stagnation. And really avoiding compartmentalizing things,
Hmm.
because that's where things stagnate too. Like, okay, I'm gonna step away from social media. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna,
Yeah, yeah.
those emotions are still stagnating. When we need a purpose to put them a positive purpose, and bring in some flow, bring in some joy, and get
Hmm.
rid of that stagnation. All right, I'm gonna
Are
do
you
liver.
you gonna put your best foot forward?
I am. So to find liver three, you go to the webbing in between the big toe and the second toe and go back about an inch. You'll fall into a well. That's about where it is.
So liver three, both sides, and the large intestine four, which is the same point on the forepaw, not on the back paw. All right.
Mhm.
Um, the four gates of pain, but if you they're also the two most commonly used points in acupuncture in the modern world. Someone did a statistical study. Okay. Now, why? They have a big effect. If you've ever had them needled, you know the effect. I much prefer actually putting marjoram on large intestine 4 than I do putting a needle there. All right. Um, Liver 3, even more so. Because then again, uh, it's in the foot. So it by its location, it is involved in mobility, in movement. Okay. Um, and standing one's ground or taking the next step forward. Right. So I'm gonna I'm gonna disappear from the screen for a moment while I put this on liver 3. Okay, I'll be back. I promise.
I already have my blue dot on my feet now. My feet are
I did it.
happy.
I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Now, is how often do we do these things? Okay, well, we do them when they're needed, and then we can't do it all the time they're needed because they're needed a lot. So, how do you make a ceremony out of it? How do you make something of a self care ritual out of it? Um, because then the way I behave, the way we humans behave, is we like to have a little routine. We like to have a little something to do. Okay. So for this day, for this magic and wisdom, the routine is triple number 17 with the yarrow. And I'm going to always, yeah, that. Okay. That energy in there, which its pungency is helping clear the sound, helping clear the senses, helping clear the eustachian tube, which is the connection between the nose and the ear. Right. And then from that place, I can use liver 3 and marjoram to step into joy, even though my lighting system just fell over.
Yep. And move some energy. Yeah. Get that flow going. Yep. And move forward in life.
Yeah. The flow. Let's go. Let's play with that a little bit. Um,
What does flow mean to everybody? Like, Shari, when you think of the word flow, what do you don't say progressive insurance.
well, isn't that insidious? Yes, it's true.
Flow for me is just being in sync. It's like I said, talking about looking at my window, I can see that the trees are starting to change. The daffodils are coming up. We've got some critters coming in, nesting, some fox and some raccoon.
Oh, I love fox.
Yeah, delightful things that are happening, but it's just being in that space for
Mhm.
me, you
So
know?
noticing is part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that I'm going to just project mostly from myself. It's like getting out of where I am in my mind and finding out where I am in this process that we call springtime. Okay. This living world that I'm in. Right. That not only am I in, that it is me, I am it. You know, we coexistence is just a word. The actuality is what it is, right? Um, I wish I could see a fox. I was the your story, just talking about what's outside your window, all right, brought me back to foxes I've known, and seeing that kind of life in a natural setting, there is something right about it, or something that it induces a flow. Um, it's pleasurable to have that memory. You had some pleasure in seeing that out there. You used the word delightful, right? Um, Maybe just by being aware of the of our natural surroundings, we can bring more delight into the world.
And you
Well,
know what's even funnier? The people behind us, both Craig and Lisa, have traveled around the world, and Lisa used to be the curator of the pandas at the National Zoo.
Wow.
Craig has been over in Africa, lived their life there, and has done a lot for the wildlife, and I've had a chance to go to Africa with them.
Mm.
But the interesting thing is he's still very scientific oriented. It's just this way. So when we were talking about the animals, I said, what if? And he's like, Sherry, there you go off in that silly tangent again. And I'm like, no, Craig. So I went and I talked to the land and I said, this is a beautiful land to make your homes. Okay. And sure enough, the one fox came in and then he said, you got your wish. Here's the female. So, okay, we've got a little camera going in the female. And about a few days later, a raccoon came.
Mm-hmm.
He said, like, check this out. And I'm like, so I waited and I asked the universe, I said, gee, it would be really nice if the raccoon came. And again, we have enough land between my neighbor's land, who's not living there anymore, and us, that we could have that. And then this morning he says, you got your wish. And it wasn't a wish, it was just me asking the universe, is it possible? Do they feel safe? And they showed up. And it's just,
Mm.
and then he said later, he said, now, Sherry, we've got a vulture here. And he says, I don't know about the vulture. And I'm like, vulture has circle, he has a place, or she, I'm not sure which it was. But I just love what's showing up on our property here and to watch them. And he's got a camera that goes at night. So we see the whole cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just trying to see if the big piece of bamboo area is where the den is,
Mm.
not that we're going to invade, but he'd love to get another camera going and see the pups come. So
yeah.
Yeah.
When I had my studio up in Astoria, it was on Pier 12, so it sat out on the river. And the river at that place is 4 miles wide, the Columbia River, 4 miles wide. At the widest point of the river, it's called the River Zen. And so the first thing I would do when I got to my studio in the morning was open the curtains, and I could see the pilot boat outside my window. And I would look at the river and I would say, where am I in the river today? Where am I in the flow? Am I out there with the outgoing tide or the incoming tide? Am I somewhere in between, or am I in one of the eddies, just kind of hanging out?
Mm.
So it was important to me to have that awareness to start my day. Like, where am I? And where do I want to be? And where should I be? Just checking in and having the water there. I mean, I'm a Pisces, so like the water was very important to me to be able to check in. So,
Right. So, in a way, by attending to the natural flow, okay, you move into a flow state. You almost induce a flow state just by observation and feeling into where you are.
yeah. And I still do that. We have the Nicoxie Creek right off of our deck here, and
Mhm.
we're up above that. And so every morning I'm like, oh, is it an incoming tide right now? Because it's tidally influenced, or an outgoing. Are there otters out there today? Are the wood ducks coming in? It's always a check-in. So if you can find somewhere to check in every day to find, where am I in this state of flow?
Yeah.
Mhm. Again,
That's cool.
there is a little bit of a ritual, a little bit of a ceremony, I do this at the beginning of the day. I do this for, I meditate. I sit for a while. I go to a place in nature and I watch. I observe. I be there. And sometimes that can get bottled. Okay. And that way, when I can't necessarily be there, I can enjoy going back there in a sense centered way that also induces a feeling of flow in me. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe this is my secret weapon is I have marjoram around. All right. I'm a crazy person. I have a lot of different oils around.
Uh,
You two may
one
have
thing,
the same problem. Go ahead.
one of the things that we didn't talk about when we were doing PC7, that it's a trust point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a piece of being in flow that trust plays in that. Yeah, to have a healthy flow of love and emotion, we have to trust. I mean, if we don't trust, we're going to hold our cards pretty close to our vest, you know.
Yeah. So Shinbao is the Chinese for what we say pericardium. It actually means heart wrapper. Okay. And it's a musculotendinous sac in a physiologic sense, in an anatomical sense, surrounds the heart, secretes a fluid to give a bit of shock absorption to the area. Um, Boy, don't our hearts need that? You know, and our minds need that in these challenging, changing, uncertain times, right? So there we have it again, right? Again, I love the mooder there. So that's really.
Well, it kind of makes that sac sort
Mhm.
of vessel
Oh, yeah.
around the heart as well. Yeah, love it.
Mhm. I want to go back to so what is the and I'll be scientific for a bit just to get to the lore. What's the name of yarrow scientifically?
Um, it You're asking me to do Latin here.
Well, it's all Greek to me.
Achillea millefolium.
Right. Achillea after
E.T.
Achilles.
Chamozoline.
Yeah, Chamazuli. Achillea millifolia. Millifolia is thousand leaved. And if you look at the little yarrow leaves, there's lots of little leaves on the leaf, right? And then Achilles is the Greeks. Was he Greek? Was he Trojan? I'm not remembering exactly, but he was definitely in the Iliad. All right, and he's a doctor. He's a battlefield medicinal. He uses this herb to stop the bleeding in a wound. Okay, um, like other plants in the sunflower family, like helichrysum, amazing wound healers. And then with this chamulazine, okay, this Achillea millefolium, okay, helps heal wounds and disinfect them, and also clear inflammation by its blueness. Its very blueness cools, right? Um, Lore, you got Peter's new book there, right?
Oh, yes.
Just real quick, just scan and see if he's got any lore in there for our yarrow or our marjoram.
A restorative and a relaxant. The channel tropisms, the affinity it has for different meridians is liver, stomach, bladder, the Chong and the Ren,
Mm-hmm.
and wood element and earth element. So
Mm-hmm.
good one to bring into spring. Um, Not particularly any lore.
I haven't seen that book yet, but he'll often do in the 2 volume set that he has. Okay,
Mhm.
he does a little bit
Aromatica.
of lore to start, and then maybe a little bit of a poem or something like that. Then he gets into the different scientific categorizations.
Yeah, he goes into, it regenerates tissue, resolves bruising, reduces heat and swelling, stops bleeding, and relieves pain. Um, More into how it's moving blood, how it's interacting with the chi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He categorizes in this book. So He's got the different categories of, oh, this is, top, middle, and base, but essential oils as energy remedies, energetic properties, and he goes into the 6 fragrance energetics functions and indications, those types of things, and oil and point categories, and in relationship to the 6 conditions and functional diagnosis. So it's not a light read. I mean, you got to dive in and then take a break and absorb.
Yeah. And use the oil while you're learning about the oil.
Yeah.
It will help you from the inside.
And I think the discussion in that he has in the beginning, in the very beginning of the book, I don't know if it's the foreword or he talks about how he knew as a Chinese medicine practitioner when he started working with essential oils that it was more than just what they were teaching about the chemistry. It was more than just the science. And I think that's part of the conversation that we're having right now today, is that we're working with the aromatic energetics. And he knew, working with Chinese medicine, and in Chinese medicine, they talk about the fragrance of the herbs or the fragrance of a plant. And he said that has to translate to essential oils. And that's really when he began his journey of pairing oils with points.
Right. In Chinese herbology, one of the most important qualities of an herb is what is its taste, but you could also translate it as what is its smell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if, the character's Wei, and it shows a open mouth and a pine tree. Okay. Now we know that trees have this stuff called pinene, which is a terpene, right? And oils are basically collections of terpenes in a scientific sense, but they have a natural recipe, a highly evolved fragrance profile. I don't want to use too many words for this, but they have a flavor. Okay. And the flavor has medicinal benefits. It makes qi go in a new or a different direction. Okay. So when something's stagnant or lacking, the scent, the flavor can help stimulate it. Okay. Um, when talking flavors with someone who's a cook, okay, how much salt do you add? It's just a pinch, it's just a dash, okay? And the ability to flavor things with nuances, which are really hard to recreate from a chemistry lab, but in the lab of life, these fragrant medicinal profiles, that's so many words. They Well, they are the spice of life after all, okay? um, and that we can flavor our experience into something that has more flow to it, okay? um, I don't know, most people realize that. I think a lot of people have that intuitive sense, but they don't necessarily have any practice that they can follow to do that. Um, so then we have this highly distilled fragrance that we can put into a recipe. We might call it a blend, right? So, just an exercise, okay? The two of these together, how do their flavors blend or flow or um,
Sweet marjoram and blue yarrow?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, they're they're the fragrance du jour.
Actually, I like that together. I get the softness of it.
Mm-hmm.
I get the sweetness. And then at the end, it rises.
Yeah. For me, the marjoram with its sweetness takes the edge off of the astringency or the sharpness that I get from the yarrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can feel that. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I like it.
And how, Shari, how do those go with the black spruce?
I'm just feeling the vibe here and I'm already in another place. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's beautiful.
Well, we have this ritual, okay? We do it once a month, and we call it the magic and wisdom of essential oils.
We do.
So we can play with um, these plant medicines, these tools we have, these toys, these delightful, I'm going to use that word because I like it a lot, delightful natural creations. We can use them to influence the quality of our life. And frankly, medicinally, like I'm going to treat a wound with a yarrow. Okay. But also attitudinally and maybe also very medicinally. All right. To get my attitude out of the anger or frustration that springtime and the state of the world might bring up and get into something like, ah, oh, that's delightful. That's got some of the flow to it. Um, the, I mean, this is one of the reasons I teach is because I get people in, they've got an issue or a challenge, and I give them something they can do and make a little bit of a game out of it, make a little bit of a ritual. This is their self care, this is their own work. I don't use the word homework. People don't like that. Well, when I say own work, they buy into it a little bit.
You own it.
Don't
Yeah.
give my secret away. Do not give my secret. Okay. Um, and that's, I think that's the gift. Um, I mean, that's why, you were talking about Peter with his introduction to Chinese medicine and realizing that it's more than just the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
I can describe the chemistry down to the gas chromatograph, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't smell the same. I
Right.
take that piece of paper and I look at it and there's nothing there. Okay. Well, maybe there is ink, and I used to really like, when the Xerox machine but that's different, okay? But this,
We have to have the embodied experience because it's individual to each person.
yeah,
And
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 most of us in this culture are trained that I take these 3 pills in the morning, I take these 3 pills at night,
Mhm.
and that there is a variety of ways, and some of them more natural that can help induce the natural system that is, in fact, our bodies to work with better balance and maybe even that word with better flow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not progressive insurance, okay?
Right. But this is I believe, and I believe this clear to my core, that this is why we are here now in this time as light workers,
Yeah.
because the plants help us bring light to an otherwise dark world.
Yeah.
And we have to do this. It's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to
Well,
teach and to allow people to have embodied experiences through the plant medicine.
yeah. It's our responsibility and it's a delight at the same time.
And I look forward to listening to the replay because there's just so much wisdom in here, which I am very grateful to both of you.
We were talking, Joseph and I, and we put together the alarm points class. I don't remember, Shari, if you had taken that class or not, but I'm going to put the link in the um,
Yield and
chats
mm-hmm.
so that whoops.
Oh,
I
and
think I did. I
I think
mean,
you did too.
I've traveled with you guys for a while and then I go in and out.
Yes, you have.
There's so many good things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
This was a really good class that we taught, and I'll pop the link in here.
yeah. What do you have in store for the next one?
Well, we got next month, we've got our International Acuaromatherapy Day.
Yes, our World Acuaromatherapy Day is in April, so we'll be boasting that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you want to do next? I mean, this is what I'm always curious about from the enthusiast group and from in teaching you showed up Okay. You showed up because you like the conversation and you add to the conversation. I'm going to just give you a compliment there because I do complementary medicine. Okay. The I and with this working off what Angela said earlier too, um, what's brewing in me right now is doing something that trains people in how to use the oils for mental, emotional, and physical wound care. Okay. Um, so, I would love to teach kids how to deal with the boo boo so that it heals faster. Okay. Because somewhere along the line, they're going to have another boo boo. Okay. And so, not putting a band aid on it now is one thing. But if I put a band aid on there and I can add a drop of oil into the cotton piece of the band aid, like maybe a little helichrys, I might sneak it in all I can. Okay. Um, then I've told them that it's not just a band aid, but it's the medicine that goes with the band aid, which also includes the medicine of teaching them how to take care of their own wound. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you have a very strong connection to kids, especially kids that are in an institutional setting and need care. Um, they need attention along with the medicine, and that um, the attention itself is a medicine,
Yeah.
and how you interact with them is a medicine. Again, maybe I'll go back to this. There is the learning, which has teaching as a part of it. Okay. And then there is the adaptability. You do it for helping this person adapt. Okay. And you train it, not just give it. Right. Um, and then what was it? Flexibility. How are we flexible in doing that? So I don't know, Sherry, if I'm answering your question so much as I'm trying to understand um, what's brewing, okay, and what's needed. And Angela, I think you're completely right on. Okay. We are delight workers, and this time needs that. Okay. And it needs that, the seriosity of that, the awareness, the intelligence of that, and also the joy of it and the flow of it.
And doing it in a way that is empowering to those who are there with us, that they can go out and be delight too.
Oh, you did a pun. Oh, yeah.
That's my word of the week. Are you delight?
Be delight. Be delight. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Shari.
No, I mean, I think I think both of you know how much Wayne and I have donated to the Children's Hospital. And,
Yeah.
Healing Touch came in first. Then we brought the aromatherapy in to help. Jonathan was a great piece with his tapping piece that we brought in. And I'll still never forget the day I sat at the table because we don't have children and we wanted to have a place to donate money to. And we went through the whole hospital and we were sitting down. And we were in their supposed complementary care area, which, had some fun things, but nothing really. And that's when, I talked about Healing Touch. And I had a few doctors there, and their first thing is, how much is it going to cost? And I said, we're paying for it. Number one, how long is it going to take to get this up and running? And, Healing Touch has a technique called the pain drain. It's
Mhm.
so simple to do and it's significant. I'd love to pair that with an oil. Maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But the nurses said, okay, we'll go with it. And they took it into the facility. And when they started doing the pain drain and a few other the healing touch pieces, the kids through their whole cycle from, maybe where they've had surgery, they were getting less meds and the healing touch was working. But where the work really touched me, and I haven't gone back to, is at the end of life,
Mhm.
bringing that closure in a way that is sacred. And yeah, it's a very special piece for
Mhm.
me to have that closure with people, and families. And the same is true for animals. I know people sometimes come to me when they hear they have to euthanize their animal, and my vet sends them over. Go talk to Sherry. She'll kind of, walk you through that piece. But yeah, I mean, we donate and try to bring in classes and educate, and the hospital is grateful for it, and the nurses particularly love the idea of being able to do something in a way that's not always a medicine or a needle or something else for them. So
Yeah. So you're empowering those staff members as well.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
True.
Well, to everybody who's listening to the replay, we are delighted to be here every month, sharing and laughing and bringing joy and hope and flow to the world.
In the
Amen.
midst of everything going on and going down,
Yep,
we keep on keeping on.
that's right. All right. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this beautiful modality and helping us share it with the world. All right.
See you next
Thank
month.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.